All right, so hello, gentlemen. Great to be here. We've got Tsuyoshi, Nick, and Andy here, all the members of PRANA version 1 and PRANA version 2, and basically all the new PRANA version 3. And so you guys are working for the 30th anniversary of PRANA on a new special project. And so like a lot of trance lovers, I've been a huge fan of PRANA since the beginning in the 90s. And now you guys are all working together on some kind of commemorative album, but not quite a conventional album. So what's the concept behind this 30th anniversary release?
Basically, it's all those old school fans, especially from Israel, especially Belgium, especially some of them from Japan. They've been just asking, and hey, what about the PRANA? What's going on? Are you guys really stopping it, or it's just just totally disappearing it, and just we got kind of offering several kind of times for playing old tracks of the 90s stuff or the PRANA stuff, and I think it was last year. It's ZNA 2022. The organizer Federico asked us, me and Andy, and why don't you just keep bringing the Nick Taylor together? And I was like, it's a good idea. And then we were just bumping them together, and we spoke about this, and we got together, hanging out in a party, in a festival, meeting all the friends and all the artists as well. And we got kind of inspired from maybe we should just do make new music together. And we just thought about, hang on a minute, we started in '94. That means it's almost like now it's 30 years anniversary for PRANA, and then three of us together is making a new album. It's for first time, so let's do it. And that's how we started. Like we already started beginning of this year or something, Andy?
Yeah, last year.
Yeah, you started
already last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was already last year, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So we got so much good ideas, and all the graphic designer from Japan, and also we're trying to include the remixers. That's the artists who we are kind of respect for this still, and yeah, that's the concept behind actually. Yeah.
What's the title of the release?
It's called Sense of Unity.
Okay. So actually, I mean, that title kind of fits in the context of this is the first time that the three of you are working together making music. When there was the first version of PRANA was Nick and Tsuyoshi, and then the second version of PRANA was Andy and Tsuyoshi. And Nick and Andy, the first time you guys were together on stage, I was there in 2013 when you did a live in Tokyo.
Liquid Room, yeah.
In Liquid Room. And so that was the first time. At that time, you were all playing together music that you'd made in the two different versions. But now, I mean, this is the sense of unity that the three of you are coming together and making music for the first time. So how has this been, given that you guys, actually, Nick and Andy, hadn't actually worked together in PRANA days, but you both worked with Tsuyoshi as that sort of, the sort of common thread. How has it been working together, given how many decades have passed since you both were making this music originally?
Well, there's a few logistical issues for us because we both live in different hemispheres. So we haven't actually spent an awful lot of time in the studio together so far. So a lot of the collaboration is happening remotely, and which is great. But I mean, it's loads of fun working with Andy. It's super easy. And because we've all collaborated on the same project before, it comes quite naturally, I think. We've all got a similar idea of what it should sound like, or what we want it to sound like, or how we can explore the sound within the parameters of PRANA. And yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to be able to spend a bit more time together actually in the studio.
It's been interesting, hasn't it? Because I mean, I think we're all a bit old school, and we love working together in the studio. But it has worked having to do it remotely. And we've been able to get together here and there, and it has worked, hasn't it?
I mean, it's a lot of Zoom meetings.
A lot of Zoom meetings,
which are great. You know, thoroughly enjoying.
I'm in Australia now, but it's I come from Tokyo, Canada, and Australia and UK. Like time differences. Even now it's like
Yeah, Tsuyoshi's just in that room behind me.
Yeah, Nick-san's just over there.
No, you can tell we're all in the same room because the blurring is after the same.
It's all blurry. It could be anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. No blurriness whatsoever. So this is kind of neat because then if you've been making music remotely in this way, I mean, this is one of the ways that technology has advanced so much since the 90s. Obviously, that wouldn't have been possible. What other kind of, when it comes to actually making the music, what other kind of technological advances have you been, obviously music production's changed a lot since the 90s. So what have you been really enjoying using in terms of what the technology offers music making since the 90s? And also, have you been going back to any old school, like, hardware synths or anything else like that for making music now? So what in terms of the advances and what in terms of the old school techniques have you been implementing?
Well, so basically, I think we're keeping a vibe of the old school. I mean, like, it's technically, also contents-wise, and also, we are like separately, like internationally, like I'm in Tokyo, Andy's in the UK, Nick is in Australia, but always it's nice to be the one studio together. Like I come into UK for the DJ booking stuff and Europe and quite a lot, so I'm always passing by Andy's studio, and he offered me to stay there. Longest was 10 days or something. Like it was really concentrate, like intense time. But also that Nick is also coming to see his family in the UK, and he's passing by Leamington studio. That sort of stuff. And he sometimes he stays there with us and things like that.
Just 2 or 3 weeks ago we were
we were
very
together.
briefly.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But technologically, I mean, we didn't know what we were doing in the 90s. We were using super basic equipment. It was all analog on a tiny little mixer, and couldn't really mix anything properly. And now just having access to all of the plugins and the mixing potentials that in the digital realm, that makes a huge difference. But we're all using look, it's a bit blurry, but there's a little analog synth. There's still some PRANA classics in the studio. Andy's got a good array of analog gear.
So
we've been using. I mean, we've used some of the things that were really classic, some of the early PRANA stuff, and digging out old floppy disks. So the ones that still work, it's amazing. Like old floppy disks. We found, for example, the intro sound to Alien Pets. Which are made on the K2000. Nick has been sending over MIDI files. We even sort of recreated some of the riffs from early PRANA stuff. I mean, I think the biggest difference between making music in the 90s and making music now is the amount of recall. You basically, in the 90s, you had to finish a track. You started it and then you had to finish it, because you were not going to be able to come back to it in 3 weeks' time.
It was never going to sound that way again.
It was never going to sound like that again. You caught a moment where the synths all came together and then you mixed it. We didn't, there was no recall in a small studio. In a big studio, you had SSL desks and you could go in, 2 weeks later, recall the whole setup. But in the 90s, you had to finish it there and then, and it meant it created a kind of energy and a vibe to it, which, that is one element I think we've wanted to try and hold on to, that feeling quality a little bit, despite the fact that now obviously we live on 3 separate continents and we have to send things over the internet and we have to do recall. And thank God for recall, because as Nick says, we didn't have a compressor. I mean, I knew what a compressor was, but we didn't.
I didn't have a clue back then.
No, I mean, we didn't have one. So now you've got so much more you need to be thinking about. And so thank God we've got computers to be able to do that. But there's something about a PRANA vibe. There's a very distinctive PRANA vibe. And I think that's been there even in PRANA Part 1 with Nick and Tsuyoshi, and then to a certain extent with me and Tsuyoshi with PRANA version 2, and keeping that vibe, something a little bit slightly punky and psychedelic, but also with a kind of just a drive and energy. So it was important to try and keep those things.
Despite being 30 years older.
Exactly. I mean, there are certain features that are just stylistically PRANA. Types of bass lines, synth lines, but drums and so on. It's also in the approach, as I was saying. But it's felt important and really natural to keep those things. Like it just is what happens when we get together. It's not forced. It's just natural. It just is natural.
It's just dynamic as well, and it's our own.
It is.
Sort
it just
of,
what
sonic
it's. Right, that sounds like PRANA. Yeah, right. Yeah. I think so. It's been really nice to sort of experience that again. To see, okay, we're making new tracks again. How's this going to go? Oh wow, it's got that PRANA vibe. It's got that PRANA energy. So analog synths, we've used a few, but digital analog doesn't matter to me. I'm not a purist. It's about getting great sounds if you can, and things that bring that interactivity, things that make you want to play, and things that make you want to interact with them. Yeah.
I think it's about sense of unity.
Sense of unity.
Basically.
Not to be cheesy or anything.
No.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, return to the source here.
But yeah.
Musically, we did want to bring some fresher things in. So we have really enjoyed working with some fellow musicians. We asked a fantastic woman called Sangeeta Lakanpal to come in. She's been fantastic, and she's a wonderful person who used to be part of the scene back a little bit on the edge of the scene in the 90s, and has studied in India, and has made a wonderful contribution. And we got an African percussionist, Ansumana Bakayoko, who is a friend of mine and lives locally to me, and we got him in, and he played the most amazing drums. And we've had a few other people. Masaki Tega has done some chanting for us. So it's been really nice to bring those elements in as well.
You didn't have live musicians in your tracks in the 90s at all, probably, did you?
Chris Decker played
that's right.
Percussion on 2 or 3 tracks, but other than that we would mostly just sampling from wherever we could find it.
So I mean, you kind of answered one of the questions I was going to ask about, because there was, like, with PRANA, there was always a sense, even when there was all these different flavors, and how in the first album, with the Tayo album, and then the Cyclone, and then with Geomantic, there was always like an array of sounds, but it was always distinctly PRANA, even when it was different. And it sounds like this is, again, that sense of unity that you've all had, like, through your history. It's just kind of organically come out. You can hear it. Oh, that's PRANA, even though it's not particularly sounding like, early 90s PRANA, mid 90s PRANA, late 90s PRANA. It's just like present time.
There'll be flavors of all of that, I think, that you can detect in parts of it, but then there's a contemporary edge to, some more than others probably, but it's some of it's more classic and some of it's more contemporary, but it's kind of encapsulates a lot of that. That's what we're going for.
Awesome. So, I mean, Tsuyoshi's still DJing, but you're probably performing more than anybody, and I'm assuming you're probably taking some of the tracks and testing them out, and then because of this fact that you've got this recall, or however you refer to it, I suppose you can go back and make adjustments based on what you hear in terms of what how the crowd's responding, or maybe you change the structure, or change the levels. Are you doing it?
Yeah, we're almost done actually. I played several times in the past in Uppsala Festival also last weekend, and also in the Melbourne stuff. People love it, and I mixed it with a kind of a new production, psytrance tracks and goa trance tracks nowadays, and some people are just coming up to the DJ and say, "Hey, what is this?" You know, especially the Belgian crowds, like, you know, they're really smelly, like, like it's coming to DJ booth, like, "Hey, what is this? Is this new? Is this new PRANA already?" It's like, yeah, how do you know that? You know, that kind of thing. So I feel more confidence that, you know, we're doing really right things that we're doing. You know, I think it's for the people who really wanted to hear what new PRANA is. So.
For example, there's one of the new PRANA tracks that you played at Uppsala that's been tweaked since you played it. And it sounds better now than it did then. It worked really well in Uppsala, but it sounds better.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that, you know, playing them, testing them in parties, you know, it's the most important environment to test them in. But it's also great to go and listen to them in the car or on headphones, or, you know, and then you can tweak it until you feel like you've got the best version of the song. So it goes through quite a refining process, I think. But yeah, playing them at parties is the most important part of that, I think.
Yeah, it's also just looking forward to hear that, you know, Tunika, Maori and Max, they're working on a studio right now. I could say already the remixes, Dick Trevor is working on a studio, Gorovich is working on a studio, and Emran is working on a studio right now. And it's Static Nerve also, they're all coming back from the Ozora group, you know, now they have a time to be in the studio themselves. So we're all looking forward to it.
So what's the plan then for the release? So I think you're doing this in stages, right? So like in terms of the contents for this 30th anniversary, how is it going to be?
We're going to put the first single out on something late September. The track called Sense of Unity, which is, you know, title track. And then after that, we are planning to release the second singles on the end of October. And then after that, we're going to releasing a just original mix, which is we have 7 tracks, including Nick's slime mix of the original track. It's the whole single. We're trying to put vinyl out, just double album. Double times. And after that, you know, what we're doing now is, you know, put the CD, Mike's on, you're supporting, and that's going to be, including a digital one, that's going to be around 2024, end of January, stuff like this. So that's the plan actually. Also that we're waiting for the upload and so on, and we're just working on it.
So basically, like, part of this Unity theme is like also like your own tracks plus remixes from other artists, friends of PRANA.
Like you remember the second album, Geomantic, it was like, you know, remixing stuff, like, you know, that kind of thing. Right?
Yeah,
but it's going to be, I think it's total of 13 tracks altogether.
With artwork by Casey.
Okay, Casey was doing the artwork for retro fans. He did a lot of the artwork for Tokyo Techno Tribe, Equinox, way back then. So I was at a lot of parties where he did a lot of the big banners. He also did a lot of the releases, so that's going to bring an old school flavor to it.
Very psychedelic artist.
Very.
It's going to be on my level, Matsuri Digital, Rocco and Matsuri, they are now working on it.
Great. Any last words around this project, or anything else that we haven't talked about that you wanted to share?
Well, it's 30 years anniversary. I don't know, should we celebrate something? Or, put in a birthday cake or something?
It's definitely worth raising a glass to.
Is that a request? Are you saying, where's my bloody 30-year birthday cake?
Yeah. Yeah, I just hope it sounds as fun as it has been making it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure it will
That's
be.
a big thing. Yeah, that's how it's been such fun making this. It's felt easy. It's just felt easy. And it's felt enormous fun. So yeah.
It's come together really quickly.
Well, I mean, I think this is, I mean, you know, I've heard some of the tracks. So I heard some of them at ZNA, and then I heard some of that Sara.
You heard of it?
Yeah. I was with Nick.
You played some.
You played some Tsuyoshi, and I was standing with Nick. He's like, oh, here's one of them. And so,
and in the DNA set.
You know, one of the things that strikes me still about the tracks from the 90s, why they still hit and land and why they still grab people, is because there was a real creative process going on when the artists were making them. And I think they were having fun and they were really inspired. And I think that's part of it. Just what you are all speaking to, the fact that it's been easy in the way that there's been fun, there's been flow, there's been connection, there's been that sense of unity. I think this is why the music is actually going to grab people. Like, that's why you have people running up to the DJ booth saying, hey, what is this? Because there's something else where the music lands, as opposed to you're just going through a routine and you're going through the same old kind of production that you always do, the same plugins and the same structure, which, you know, unfortunately some of the SIGH trance has been sort of a little bit doing. And I think some of this revival, I hope, of what it is that you're doing is also a revival of that whole creative process and a really inspired process. And so far it sounds like it. So can't wait to hear the whole thing.
Yeah.
Oh, one more thing I wanted to say. I kind of appreciated the sound guitars singing on that. The new album. Also the Bakayoko. It's all the Andes, the UK connections and musicians, all that stuff, and Singon, Masaki's, it's all the collaborators. Also the technical guy, Maria, Max.
And your support as well, Matt.
Yeah.
Very much appreciated.
Oh, sorry about that.
Yeah. Well,
and Mao, Schizologic.
And Mao, Schizologic, and Roy and all that remixes,
Roy should have
Roy as well. Yeah, who's done a great remix of
really good remix.
Jingle. Yeah, really fun. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, this 30 years is really, I mean, it's not just looking back. I mean, it's a real evolution, right? So I mean, it's kind of like what you were saying, Tsuyoshi, where people were asking, like, are you guys just done? And clearly you're not. And clearly you've really taken the invitation to just keep evolving. So,
and also, I would like to say that we're going to release our new album, three of us for the first time. But this is a starting. We're going to do more and more and more and more until we die. Oops. Well,
30 more years, please.
Well, this is what I think.
We just
but
started
I don't know.
a new
I'm
track
not sure
today,
about the two
funnily
of you
enough.
guys.
You were saying,
what I
Nick, you
This
just
is what I
started.
believe.
You just started a new one, eh?
Yeah, we just started a new one today.
Fantastic. So just don't stop.
Well, not for the time being.
No.
Yeah.
Right on. Awesome. Well, I know everybody's going to be really excited to hear all of this. Glad we could all talk about it. And,
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Matt.
All right, over and out for now. Congratulations, guys, on the 30 years, and here's to many more.
Yeah. Thank you.
Nice one, guys.
Ciao.
Nice one. Ciao.